Welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for hanging with me on this Monday. So there's been some recent disqualifications on the Bassmaster Elite Series that have made all the headlines. And I want to kind of talk about what information actually is, because there is an art to probing other fishermen and getting the information out that you really want, that would actually benefit you. And I'm going to talk about that right this second. So if me and you bumped into a tackle store and I wanted to know what part of the lake you were fishing, just simply I could say to you, are you fishing dirty or clear? Clear would tell me that you're probably down closer to the dam or mid-lake. Dirty would tell me that you're up the river. Now, if you said dirty, I don't really have to ask any more questions. I know you're fishing shallow and it's probably mid-lake and up. Now, if you said clear, then I could ask you one more question, shallow or deep. And if you said deep, shallow, whatever, I would know pretty much what you're doing. And we could leave the conversation right there. That is an OG trick at probing someone to getting an idea where they're fishing. You know, are you catching them? And you just kind of give them that, haha, they know you're catching them. If you say, I don't know, catching a few, they don't know if that means a few dozen or just a few. Why I tell you that whole story is there's a skill to that. My dumbass has never been able to figure out how to use information from other fishermen and go catch fish. So I just go and catch them the only way I know how, reading the water. And a lot of times I don't catch them. A lot of times I just don't figure it out. And a little bit of information would have went a long way that I never got. The guys that know how to make that work have been doing that for decades. It is a skill. It's networking. It's everything that you do in any other types of sports. You get around the better people, like hiring a guide or networking with someone that's a really good fisherman on a lake. Instead of taking gas money after you fish with them, say, hey, I've never went frog fishing on Lake Gunnersville. How about we go do that sometime? So then in a couple of years, that guy knows there's a tournament coming up on Lake Gunnersville. He calls me, we go out, we go frog fishing. And I'm not going to show him the best juice on the lake. Maybe I do, maybe I don't know the best juice on the lake, but I at least get him cutting out a lot of the guesswork. That is where the information thing has always been around. It's always been available. Now you could make a case that if you're an upper echelon pro and you're one of the stars, maybe the tournament organizations kind of hint, we're going to this lake next year, we're going to this lake. Then you can start kind of padding where you need to get information, who you need to talk to, who you need to seek out. And before the off limits, that was a big thing. You would call so-and-so, he would send you a map with some hot parts of the lake. He would tell you, look, this is what they've been doing. That's not playing anymore. After decades of doing that, you get really good at understanding information. You know how to make your 2-day, 3-day, 1-day practice period very efficient. But again, it is not easy. And there's a lot of fishermen that are like me that tried maybe doing that when they first started doing this, and it never panned out. It just puts you into these areas where everyone else was fishing. You never really figured out how to make that work. So there are guys that go out, they don't want any info. They don't want to stay in a house with other guys that are going to talk about fishing. They want to just go figure it all out on their own. And I respect those guys. And then there's guys that are really good at getting info out of people. They have buddies all over the country that are willing to take them. I think you would probably take a guy like Kevin Van Dam Fishing if he called you and said, hey, do you want to go fishing? Let's go. You want to go on your lake? Let's go. You would do that. So if a big name guy called you and that's what they do, they'll go out fishing. And that's a huge advantage if you know how to make that work. So I think it's very important to understand that whatever these guys did, if it was right, wrong, they just slipped up. It hasn't always been like this. There's never been a time in bass fishing where it was, this is the rule and we will crack you if you break it. There hasn't been a rule like this. No information ever has never been the rule. There's been a cutoff, and a lot of guys would at least go to the lake early, pre-practice. If it was a lake that had a lot of timber, you would get someone to take you out and show you how to run some of it. That's very important. If you get to a place like the St. Johns River and you don't know how to navigate, or you get to Lake Seminole, you're gonna go the long way through all the stump fields. That's gonna cut out a lot of fishing time. If you could get there a month early and have someone show you a track to run through the areas, cut out miles of travel in your day of fishing, that's a big deal. So there's a lot of things in fishing where it's a lot of extra work. Most guys don't want to spend the time doing that. You can show up, be unprepared, and do really bad. And I've done that a lot. I've showed up to a lot of lakes unprepared, had to take the long way, didn't know how to get around, spent the whole tournament right close to the marina because I was afraid of taking my lower unit off because I didn't show up a month early and get some help on how to run a lake. Luckily nowadays we have mapping chips that really help you move around. But I just want to make it clear that getting information, yeah, if you hire a guide, the right guide, not all guides are going to put you on the right fish, and he shows you waypoints and it's a lake where it's just spot oriented. You got to know the spots. If you sit on that spot long enough, you're going to win the tournament or you're going to catch a bunch of big bass off it. And you do that outside of the rule and you break that rule, then yeah, that's a horrible thing. You're a horrible person. You shouldn't belong in this sport after that moment. But getting a little tidbit of info year after year after year and understanding how to use it, there's an art to that. Some of the best guys in the world, that's what they do the very best. And again, I've never been able to make that work other than one time on the Alabama River. My best buddy took me out there, Dan Green, showed me how to catch spotted bass, and that worked for me. That's the only time I can remember where someone actually showed me how to catch a fish and I made it work on the day that counted. I haven't even tried to do that other than, my best friend just wanted to take me fishing. Has that ever worked? Every other time in my life, to a point where I just said, I'm not doing it, it usually messes you up. And what will mess you up is if you have a conversation with somebody and you say, I don't want to go to the south end of the lake because I never catch them. That's always dead. There's so much dead water down there. I'm not even going to practice there. And your buddy goes, yeah, that's probably a good idea. Don't go to the south end. Then after the tournament, you find out everybody caught them on the south end and you were struggling the whole time, practice and the tournament, because you stayed only on the north end. And in your head the entire time you're thinking, man, that south end, maybe I should go down there. But then it pops into your head, your buddy said, don't go into the south end. No, you don't need to. That's where it's going to mess you up. So you got to be very careful. Again, I'll say this a bunch of times in this video. I've never been able to make that work. If I'm going to Table Rock Lake, or I'm going to the Great Lakes, or I'm going down to Florida, or I'm going to Beaver Lake in Arkansas, or I'm going to a Blueback Herring Lake in the Carolinas, I will talk to nobody because I just know the outcome of how that will turn out for me. Probably not very good. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the water.